Great. So I guess that we can slowly start as people chip in. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. Welcome to the Scalable Cities Café on empowering climate action and featuring the Klima Gasteiz Project. Before we jump into today's café, let me briefly introduce the Scalable Cities, which is an initiative of the European Commission that helps take smart city solutions beyond the pilot stage. Our mission is to scale up and replicate successful innovations tested in cities across Europe, with the goal of have proven solutions that don't remain isolated experiments, but instead benefit more communities. This is exactly why we're here today, to share valuable knowledge and real-world examples from cities leading the way. The Scalable Cities is a city-led community which brings together lighthouse cities, which pilot innovative solutions, fellow cities, which learn from and adapt these solutions, and positive energy districts, which focus on sustainable urban energy systems. Today, our network includes 28 projects supported by EU funding and 142 unique cities working together to drive innovation, sustainability, and climate action. This has been a project that started in 2014, and all of these projects you see on the PowerPoint have received European Commission backing, and support continues throughout 2024 and 2025 with a strong focus on positive energy districts, which are a crucial step towards climate neutral cities. The Klima Gasteiz Project, our focus today, is one of the initiatives supported by the Scalable Cities Action Grant, which is a key mechanism that helps cities replicate successful smart cities solutions across Europe. Through this, Scalable Cities enables cities to move beyond experimentation, adapting tested sustainable innovations to their local context. Through the Action Grant, projects like Klima Gasteiz are not only making an impact at the local level, but also create scalable models that other cities can learn from and apply. We're thrilled to have you join us today for this insightful discussion on how inclusive governance, multi-stakeholder collaboration, and tailored engagement strategies can drive climate action and support the transition to carbon neutral cities. This cafe is part of a series of cafes. So if you're interested in accessing the recordings of previous sessions, just follow us on social media, where we continuously share discussions on key urban topics that you see on the screen. Before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping rules. This session is being recorded, so feel free to turn off your camera if you do not wish to appear in the recording. After the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session. But if you have a question that comes up during the discussion with the experts, please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat or to raise your hand and jump in. We gladly welcome that. And a recording, obviously, is going to be available after the session and will be uploaded on our event page after the cafe. I kindly ask you to join our Slido here today to be able to participate and be a great audience. So if you have your mobile phone with you, please scan the QR code on your screen or go to slido.com and enter the number with the hash key. This will allow you to actively participate in today's discussion and share your thoughts and answer polls with us. So without further ado, we're honored to have two incredible speakers with us today that will bring deep expertise in climate policy, the social research of the Klima Project, and tell us all about community-driven engagement. We have here today with us Begoña Pernas, which is a partner and historian at GEA21. Begoña specializes in gender, urbanism, and public policy evaluation. We have Paula Jiménez as well, which is a partner and is responsible for social research and public policies at Traza Consultoría. And Paula is a consultant with a focus on public participation, gender perspectives, and inclusive urban governance. So Begoña and Paula, thank you for being here with us today. The floor is yours, so please tell us a little bit more about your research and the Klima Gasteiz project.
Great. Thank you so much, Eugenia. And thank you all for joining. I hope this session sparks your interest and we can engage in a discussion at the end and in the Slido. So to introduce the project, the Klima Gasteiz Project, we wanted to share first where it began, no? With the municipality of Vitoria-Gasteiz is a member of the two EU missions, the Climate Adaptation and Climate Neutrality Mission. And working with them, they posed the challenge to socialize the missions, to try to engage new publics in the discussion about the EU missions. And our question first, in order to do this, was who is not in the discussion already, and why, let's say, these social groups that are less engaged, less interested, are feeling more distance from a discourse that is mainly posed by active minorities, is what we call active minorities, researchers, intellectuals, media mappers, social classes, cosmopolitan groups that dream of the global world and live in the global world and are not anchored to the local scale like lower classes. How this social class might play a key role, that is one of the key fundamental lines of the research, how social class might play a key role in the discourses and the social positions that are enabling some to engage more and others to feel more distance and more far away from these topics, So this is where we started. We wanted to understand why groups that are normally seen as groups that are indifferent to climate change, that feel anger, confusion, or that are skeptical, why were they thinking, feeling this? Why was their perception, their vision of the world? What is happening? What is their imaginary of the social change that all this climate change is bringing? So we first conducted a sociological research in order to understand the role of social class in the positions towards climate change, also trying to move away from the concept of vulnerability that sometimes doesn't allow us to see the socioeconomic, the structural trends, the structural positions of certain groups. So this study is also trying to bring back to the agenda a focus and an understanding of the social positions based on socioeconomic and material conditions that shape perception. So we did first a sociological research based on the technique of focus groups. This is no participation, let's say it's not engagement. That sometimes there's a confusion on this, but it's research. It's research to understand their ways of understanding, of making sense of the world, of listening and understanding and analyzing why certain groups are having certain positions towards different topics. So these groups were homogeneous groups, were 4 groups of 7 to 8 people each, people that don't know each other, which is one of the beauties of the technique, that you gather 7 to 8 people that don't know each other and that build a sense or a perception together. They are homogeneous in the sense that we build them based on their gender, their social class, their neighborhood, different variables. And with very low facilitation in the discussion, they together build and talk and discuss, but build the social structure. You see how they start talking about in first person of the plural. We, the working class, we. So they're not talking only about themselves, but they're talking about they're belonging to a group, to a larger group, which is what's so interesting about the technique. So the 4 groups were, the first one, adult males, working class in the sectors of industry, construction, agriculture. The second group was adult women, working class, employed or unemployed, and also engaged in the care work. The third group were immigrants, men and women, also adults and residents of the municipality, all were residents of the municipality of Vitoria-Gasteiz. And the fourth group were youth, mixed, both men and women, without studies and in precarious jobs. So these are the 4 groups, and then we combined it with also some sectorial participatory workshops more with the groups that, let's say, are nearer to the climate consensus, to the climate discourses. No, this is the education community of different public schools and associations already engaged in climate actions. Also, representatives from an industrial park in Vitoria, and also representatives of different identity groups from associations from the LGBTQ community, immigrants, and so on. So. And then the second step of the project was building the governance proposal that we will delve into it later on through the questions of Eugenia. But I'm going to pass the floor to Begoña to delve into some results.
Yes, hello. Well, it's complex to explain in few words sociological research, but we want to tell you first that we need research, because doing participation, we are always in the same framework. No, we think that is a very important subject. We think that we have to act very fast because time is against us. We think that individuals and governments have to act. We think a lot of things that are not universal. And the way to watch this lack of universality in our discourse is to listen to people. And when we listen, we discover first, which is very shocking, no, in a sociological way, that social class is most important than gender, age, or origin. The four groups have a very similar view of this issue of climate change and the politics around, no? Which is not a normal thing in other issues. So class is to be taken into account. And why is so important? Because when we talk about climate change, we are talking about the end of the industrial world. No? We are talking about the end of a enormous, important historical process of living. And the person that were more important in this industrial world was working class. So we are talking about the end of a class. And people are feeling that is the end of themselves. And themselves is not only a kind of minority and industry energy, is a morality, a sociability, all a world of feelings and of relations, of bonds, and an ethical view of the world. And this is what is shrinking or disappear. And not only it is in a way of disparition, no? Because we are in a new global economical world, we are in a big transition, but everybody is telling them that is better than this world finish, because it's not a good one, no? Because the way they produce, we consume, no? We work together was not good for the planet, for humanity, not only for a productive world, no? So it's normal that they feel at least a little bit depressed or desmoralizados, how do you say, demoralized, but what they are all the time listening to. And then we ask them to act individually in a way they cannot act because they don't have money to act in this way we are asking them to do. And in a collective way, they have no place, because or they enter this frame of thought and of activity, or the places they use to act in, the work, the labor and work forces, and the neighbors are the two scenarios that are under menace, no, disappearing. So they know how to act collectively, but they have no place to do this. And we ask them to act individually, and it's not something they want or know how to do. Okay, so I think we can continue.
Thank you, Begoña. Thank you, Paula, for this quick jump into your research. It is indeed difficult to summarize an entire sociological research in a couple of words, but I think you did it perfectly well. So let's get into the questions and see where they take us to. My first question is around the fact of understanding more how cities can design inclusive climate governance models that truly engage all social groups. So in your opinion, what principles should guide this inclusive climate governance?
Okay, I can start. And as we mentioned before, one fundamental thing and principle should be social research, no, and qualitative research. No, the value of conducting social research before building a policy or before building a communication of a policy is crucial to understand the positions, and not only to communicate better, but also to reframe the policies better. No, we see in our research that climate policies, if they were more directed towards employment, housing, industrial jobs, local commerce, solidarity, and social bonds, they would have a lot more social acceptance from these groups. So it's like combining climate neutrality and public space, or different actions, with also the social material conditions that these groups are talking about. No, so trying to connect with the needs and problems that these groups are framing, because at the end, employment, we can talk about green jobs and how the economy is changing. Housing is crucial for them, and it's also crucial for climate change. No, so it's like not leaving the discourse and the policies only to engineering and bioengineering topics, but also connecting with socio-economic structural conditions, which is what lower social classes connect with. And the other thing is connecting with the social change. No, climate change is changing a society. As Begoña explained, is leaving behind the industrial society. So it's what is going to replace this society? Individualism and cosmopolitan values? Because if not, if this is what replaces, these groups are totally out of, no, will be in denial of climate change, will be in denial of this new world. No, we need to build the values and emotions that cannot be blame individualism, no, and lack of solidarity. But these groups talk about pride, for instance, and how pride and belonging to a city, but also to a nation, which is a scale sometimes forgotten by cosmopolitan discourses that go from local to global. No, so the national scale is crucial for these groups too. No, so the national belonging, the national pride, and the local scale also. No, and how we're talking, they say we're talking about taking care of our cities, taking care of our neighborhoods, of our country, being responsible for our country. So those values of responsibility, solidarity, social bonds will connect a lot more with these social groups.
Thank you, Paula. Yes, indeed. I guess that you flagged two very important points. So to the question of why is it crucial to move beyond this top-down climate policies and actively involve diverse communities in climate adaptation and mitigation efforts, how can this strengthen public trust and long-term commitment to sustainability? I guess that identifying these two points that you just flagged is very, very important. I don't know if, Begoña, there's something that you'd like to add more specifically in terms of the role of citizen engagement in this climate action?
I'm not sure of that, because as Paula explained so well, we are all the time talking about towns and cities who are driving the social change and the global society. There are a lot of people that are out of these places first. No, they live in countryside, in small towns, in places where this change is not so exciting. It's more, and they feel abandoned, or they feel left behind, etc. So I think we have first to change our communication to this person first, before talking about engagement and asking them to act or to change. We need to review our own assumptions, communication ways, and scale of policy, which is very important. And we have a big problem being in the Scalable Cities Cafés, is that we have to scale to nation politics, because it's a national class, which is seen that employment, housing, all the big agriculture, food, etc., are national politics. They are not European, they are not local. So what we do with this, no? First thing. And then we have to scale to the ground, no? To see what is happening in neighbors in the cities, which is that all the bonds are being destroyed, starting with the small shops, with the possibility of living some generations in the same area, which is changing because of the price of housing now, no? And because of natality. In Spain, we have a natality crisis, which is not a crisis, it's a regime, no? In Italy also. And 40 years of not having children. For the working class, this is very important because natality is, for a collective group, is the important thing. It's not what I'm gonna do with my life, but what is happening in society. So we need to talk about all these issues before asking them to engage in what? In mobility change, in...
Yes, and
Yes.
also because Begoña mentioned before the consumption, no? That they feel that they're asked to change their consumption. They feel that a lot of policies, let's say, or discourses are trying to push them to consume in a different way. And I think this is a top-down policy that is very problematic for this social group, no? They cannot change cars to an electric car. We cannot make a policy that is blind to social class and doesn't understand that the material conditions of so many groups are impossible to have a lifestyle that is cosmopolitan, no? So if we want them to change their housing, their consumption, their mobility trends, their consumption in food and so on, we need to think differently. We cannot leave it to consumption. And what they feel is that because they're leaving everything to the individual and for the individual to shift their consumption, the problem cannot be so big, no? They think it's a corporate problem, not a public problem. It's like a fake. It has to be a fake invention, because if not, they would do something serious. No, the states, the public administration, not ask us to consume differently. They would do something big and something important. No, so they feel that the public administration is supporting corporate entities that are pushing for electric cars and for a new product that is also carbon intensive, but it's more, no, it's better for the corporate interests.
Yes, this is extremely interesting, especially because now we're able to give the floor to our audience and ask them, for them, what is the most important factor in building this trust in climate policy, if everything begins with communication and this change in communication that Begoña was talking about. So we invite you to chip in and to flag your opinion on what do you think is the most important factor when we talk about trust and climate policies. Seems like there's a tie in the first two, but maybe I can also give the floor to our experts, Paula and Begoña, to comment a bit on the results that we're seeing on the screen.
For me, the most important is the last, the direct economic and social benefits, so we have a problem. Because if experts don't see that people live in complicated material lives, and then they need to see that they are important for authorities. They don't need transparency, accountability. This is a very technical idea. They want to see that the state take in charge of their problems. And if we talk about mobility, we need to talk about the time of working, the working hours, because this is the problem of people. It's not mobility alone, etc. No?
Yes, I also think that clear and relatable messaging is important, no? But yeah, it's all interesting answers.
But when we talk about the benefits, don't think, not individual benefits. That's again a cosmopolitan view. They want to see that their country, they love, their neighbor, they love, their friends are going well. It's not giving them money to change the energy issue in their house. It's to see that all the neighbor is not being gentrified and and dying. No?
Yeah.
And the most voted one, no, the involvement of communities in decision making. I think this is an interesting one because sometimes participation it's more and more seen as a token, no, but it's not only deliberation and decision making, that for sure, but it's also understanding the discourses, no? So the previous step, no, to engagement and collective decision making is trying to understand who is left out of that decision making with the framing and the way you're inviting people, no? And also in a democracy that is changing so fast, our societies are changing so fast, and the representation of an industrial society doesn't work anymore, no? Political parties and unions don't have the affiliation they had in the industrial societies. So nowadays, social dialogue, deliberation is very difficult because it's a lot of identity groups, more atomized in society. We don't have clear representation of the unions, neighborhoods, interests, no? So decision making needs to come first with a lot of research to understand, and then know with who and how to deliberate and to get to new solutions, no?
Yeah, this is very interesting, especially because it leads us to my next question for you, Paula and Begoña, because we've heard multiple times already you talking about how this working class communities are demoralized. This was the word that Begoña at the beginning used, no? So towards this shared common perception of social change. So they see and they portray themselves as being distant and disconnected from this daily struggle. And in your opinion, if we turn towards the policymakers, what are the key takeaways from this study? And what do they show us in terms of how can policymakers use these insights to reshape their communication and engagement strategies? What can they do on their end?
Yes, it's easier to criticize than to construct, and we know what is not working. We need more research and thought about what policy and what communication will work better. We know that we cannot have a discourse not historical without frame, no? Which is a natural issue. We cannot have a discourse that is without subject. No, we don't know who is responsible for climate change, who can act. Is humanity, is who? And we need to repoliticize, discuss again the framework. That's the first thing. It's a mythical way we talk. Mythical, not because climate change don't exist, but because it works like a myth. We are all in the same ship. No, we are all together. We have to move. No, we are not all in the same ship. We are in different social positions, and the results of our actions affect in different ways to different positions. So working class want always to talk about the material conditions of living and their bonds, the morality of their relations. So everything that we do have to strengthen both the material conditions of living and the bonds, the ties to the neighbor, to the city, to the nation. No? People say, in my country, we used to have goals, and this is very important to see, to understand the logic of policy. If you want me not to use plastic, explain to me why at the end I have to do something. Where is all the logic of this chain? Don't tell me, as in religion, act like this without explaining. And this is very important. We have to reconstruct the cadena, the chain of sense, the chain of sense, and see why now I want to buy local food. But I cannot do that because there is no local food, and because it's more expensive than imported far food. Explain to me all this chain, and we will discuss what to change. This is in a logical way, no? The way to act, I think.
Yeah, and adding on that, in the study we see what, as Begoña said, it's not working, no? So the technocratic, dramatic, and blame in the communication is not working, no? So the chains of sense making, as Begoña was saying, but also trying to use other values that are not blame and individual blame, no? So pride, solidarity, belonging, positive values that can inspire a society to change and to transform together, no? And also the dramatic and planetary scale is distancing this group a lot. They are the losers from the globalization, no? They see how their local commerce, their local bonds are ending because of the global chains of Amazon, the global and the big corporations and supermarkets, no? So
Power.
they cannot connect with this planetary scale. When they hear the planet is ending and it's our fault or it's your fault, they feel totally disconnected and misunderstood, no? So they need to talk about other scales, the national scale, the local scale, their neighborhood, their pride. So try to connect with that morality and that values, no, that this social class connects with. And also, I think it's crucial that the public administration gains a sense of their role in all of this, no, and has policies that are that respond to the gravity of the problem, because the chain of reasoning of these groups is if they're blaming us. So first in the discourses they always connect with hegemonic discourse, no, they feel fear and they feel it's their blame. But then when they start reasoning, they connect with what I was mentioning before, that if it was so important, they wouldn't leave everything to the individual. They would do something about it. No? So they are expecting the state and the public administrations to know their role and to distinguish what is responsibility of the public sector, what is responsibility of the private sector, and what is responsibility of the individuals. But
A society.
the society. It cannot be, no?
All together, mix.
Yeah.
I guess that this is an extremely interesting and important point to actually give responsibility to each and every group and distinguish it. So we have someone raising their hand from the audience. Please feel free to chip in, turn your camera on, Rebecca, if you want to turn your camera on, and ask your question to the experts.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Rebecca Huding. I'm responsible for the project Reformers, through which I received the invitation. So thanks for organizing this this webinar. I was very interested in the results, and thanks because they align a lot with the research I've done in the past years, also in other projects. I wanted to add one thing, and I don't know if it's really a question, but maybe it can help the discussion related to the question that it's there. How can policymakers use the insights from this project to reshape communication and engagement strategies? And I, in line with what you said, I've had not the clear sensation, it's not a feeling, the clear answer from the people that we engaged in projects, but also in my private activity as activist in Italy, is that very often the problem is that the information doesn't get on time, doesn't arrive on time to the citizens, because they receive it in ways that are not aligned with their needs, because we organize also as projects, in research project, we organize very often events during working hours in which the working class cannot join. We cannot provide them for the right moment, for the right time to receive the information that we want to share with them related with the climate change and with the risks that they are maybe getting through. And we have a lot of examples. We have all the floods in Spain, and I guess you have the experience we have the flood in Italy. So I work a lot on adaptation, and when it comes to explaining why those things happen, they often give all the responsibility to the politicians, which is very much comprehensible. I'm with them. But the problem there is often that they are not given the tools, they're not given the information to understand the urgency of some of the adaptation actions that might be taken, while instead very often we as a community and also policymakers send bit wrongly framed message that individual responsibility comes with small individual actions every day, while it's a community effort that of adapting to climate change. And that should be supported by the incentives that are there out there, but people are not aware of them. They cannot use it. They're not able to use it. They're not able to know when they are coming out, when they can be asked for. So I think that we have a systemic problem here at the local level, at the regional level, at the national level. We are all aware of it. So trying to go to what is my answer to the question that I see there is that we should start also in the European projects, understanding that at least a part of the communication actions that we design are designed around the needs of people that normally do not connect with research. Otherwise, it will be often and every time researchers with researchers with researchers and policymakers, but then we cannot connect with the working class. So this is a recommendation that I also have from another project called Klimas on cities and climate assemblies, which I try to always link with all the other projects that I'm organizing, because we have these insights and we have the amazing reaction of the citizens that were involved in the climate assemblies organized under the Klimas project, because they said, I didn't know about this enough. I was glad that I received the information now, because I can take better decisions, I can take action, I can understand how much I should be involved, instead of saying that I don't trust politics, because if I'm not there, then they will take decisions on my behalf while I want to have my say there. So I would start from organizing, also from projects. I mean, it's also our responsibility to at least have a piece of our event and accept that we might organize our events on a Saturday on the evening, so that people can join us outside their working hours. We receive a lot of money and we should think about it. That's just my...
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, of course, if we made participatory or participation places or issues, we need to take into account the times and needs of people. But I think the problem is not information. We discover that people are perfectly informed. Is narrative in one side. So if we continue to say the same things, the other one is not listening anymore. And then politics, not politicians. No? The Dana in Spain, the tragic flood in Valencia was a matter not of information, but of construction for years in places where houses shouldn't be. Now and never. So we are talking about urbanism, we are talking about prices of houses, development, etc. And what people want is to see someone in charge. And it's the state, it's not the politician, that's the problem. When we don't see public policy with strength, we see people talking on TV. And so politicians are there. They are always being criticized. But we need serious policy. What we do now, we are talking about a lot of things, but not about urbanism in these places, which is the important issue. No? And people cannot do that. Excuse me, I have to go 1 second.
So I'll chip in, because this is all very interesting, and especially on how it leads us to our next question that revolves around language and framing. You know, so I don't know, Paula, if you have a take on this. We have seen that probably different. Obviously, we cannot generalize. I'm not sure if what Rebecca said resonates with the north of Spain, with Vitoria-Gasteiz as well. But if we keep on talking about narrative and framing, what, in your opinion, could cities do to reframe these climate narratives? What language and outreach strategies would be more beneficial to actually reaching out to the people and have climate messages resonate with them?
Yeah, so this connects me with the second part of our project, no, where we proposed this governance structure for the public administration to learn how to do differently. No, it was very focused on. So what we wanted is for them to listen and understand the discourses of the working class groups and understand from which positions they were framing interesting things that they see in this change of society that is bringing climate change. No, so for instance, we proposed to always think about climate policies combining and having the social change element into account. So when we talk about floods and climate adaptation, let's talk also about green jobs. No? When we talk about local commerce or commerce, let's talk about sociability, because supermarkets, big commerce Amazon is replacing the sociability of the working class groups that are anchored in the neighborhoods. No, so when we talk about renewable energies, let's talk about the territory. That is something that also connects with. So let's always think of topics and ways of thinking and combining topics and framing challenges that resonates with these groups. So let's talk about renewables and climate change and climate adaptation, neutrality, but let's always connect it with the social change, the sociability, the employment, the housing, the topics they're bringing into the table and that they need policies for. They cannot see, and we cannot have a society that focuses predominantly on climate change and forgets the social class policies, which are structural national policies that Begoña mentioned before, no? The housing, the employment, the industry, the territory, the agriculture. So I think it's a matter of how to think the problems differently, to not think only from the climate change or bioengineering point of view, but combine it with a social change, morality, the values. Think that we're creating a new society, and we cannot only talk about risks, vulnerability, and climate-related topics, but it's our policies are creating a society. So we need to tackle that directly, and this will make these groups feel more engaged because it's topics and things they're needing to discuss and to know and to build what is replacing the industrial society that is ending and where they did feel part of. No?
Yes, indeed. And you actually already answered to my next question, which was delving more into this governance model and understanding how, what are the essential components of a governance model that fosters a real participation and avoids superficial engagement. So thank you very much for that. I guess that now we can jump into our next Slido question, which gives word to our audience and asks them, what is the key to scaling up inclusive climate governance? This is something that I will be asking to our experts as well. But I guess that at this point in our discussion and conversation, it's important to look ahead and see how we can use this research that led to a different governance model, how we can use it to actually scale up and bring it to other cities as well. I don't know, Paula, if you want to comment already on the multiple choice.
I want to comment on one thing.
Go ahead, please.
Yes. No, it's just that we think all the time in changing society. We have to change policies. So we need to change the administration. So all these answers are interesting, but it's not the most important. The most important is the public administration and the stakeholders that accompany able to receive this participation and to do something with it. The public sphere is every time more weak in this moment, in the historical moment. If we don't have a public structure able to make these policies, no, participation is just a way of distributing guilt and responsibility. People cannot do that now. They have to ask for it. They can change their behavior, etc. But what we need is structures that are more able, no, with more budget and with a different structure that they can work with departments. So we are all the time doing this with Madrid municipality, with Vitoria. We needed to mix the different areas and to make them work together with other objectives. And then you can go and ask people or ask them for engagement. But you need to change first the administration, and I suppose also European policy, but I don't get there. It's too complex.
Yes, I totally agree. Thinking about the participatory methods within, inside the public so regional and national bodies. So how they can learn how to think differently, they can learn how to work differently, they can learn how to respond to a problem that is never sectorial, it's always intersectorial, together with others that have other knowledge, other mandates, combining the
even private sector can be there.
Yeah,
but you have to lead. You have to lead because we need leadership.
The public purpose that is clear, yes. And the last answer, I think it's interesting because, as I mentioned before, in a society that is changing so much, how do we participate in our democracy? Our democracy is built on a form of representation of the industrial societies, unions, parties. When affiliation drops, and when there are so many smaller groups that are representing different identity groups and different interests, how do we create the mechanisms for social dialogue, for deliberation? We cannot build participatory processes with a clear understanding of the mechanisms to engage and also to scale up, because the question is also about scaling up, because maybe when we're talking about remodeling a public square or a public school, it's easier. It's a scale that we can manage, But when it's regional or national, how do we create those mechanisms to have representation?
Indeed, and we do have also Rebecca on the chat that actually agrees with this need of institutional bodies to scale up and to let's say tap into that participation side, but obviously having the tools to be able to do that properly. We have actually talked extensively about how this working class participants in the studies expressed skepticism about climate policies. But more specifically, I'm actually turning the question around to you, Paula, in terms of what you were saying just now. So what can cities actually do specifically to counteract these perceptions? How can they distance themselves from this business-driven agenda and framing, let's say, and position themselves as doing something for the public good? You talked about combining before, but more concretely, is there something that you actually think that cities should be doing other than combining?
This is an interesting question, but I think it connects with the idea about the interdepartmental collaboration, How to define the public purpose when addressing a challenge, having the purpose clear, because sometimes we jump into solutions, or even for market-oriented solutions more and more, The public sector is shifting, and so I like the position of the public good, but it needs a public purpose, And then the collaboration between departments and mandates and interests of different technical teams, and how to work together to think and respond to challenges differently. Because if only climate change departments work on climate change policies, it will be again bioengineering policies that are connecting with active minorities and not with the people and interests that social services, local economy department, fiscal policies are working with. So we need a combination of fiscal, social, economic, urbanistic stake.
And starting with green jobs for youth that are not of high education level, and for women, and then continue with really a project of defense of the small shops and commerce, because it's the soul of the city, and I don't know a scalable city cafe without cafes, real cafes, and not this wonderful online shop. And you know, we are all the time doing the opposite, all the time. All the policies are now avoiding, allowing that all the bajos, all the locals in towns are changing to housing. No? We need to do the opposite. We need to do a policy that will take care of this kind of issue that are the sociability places for people. And then things will happen. If we have streets and we have commerce and we have people thinking together and education and jobs, everything will happen. But if we do the opposite and we say that we are very aware of the end of the humanity, people are not silly. No, they think les estamos vacilando. How would you say that in English,
Yes.
Paula?
That we are kidding. No,
We
but
are kidding. We are kidding them, and then it's very serious because
Yeah.
it's the end of democracy. We are not talking about the end of humanity, but the democracy, yes.
Because we have mentioned this humanity subject, no? They always refer in the discourses to this humanity subject that it's not a political subject because it's difficult not be, and these groups talk about this subject as something like very far away, almost a religious relationship with this abstract type of subject that doesn't really mobilize actions. So that's the analysis behind the humanity.
We
That
have
is very
to think
common.
that we have a lot of social energy, and they need to put this energy somewhere, and they have no places, no works, no shops, no streets. They are disappearing. So what to do with this energy? It goes to the bad places. Of course, energy goes always somewhere, as you well know, an expert in energy. No? So try to give them the possibility of being good. That's exactly what people are claiming in all Europe. The possibility of doing what we know to do, not to take care of people, of neighbors, and this is the real change that we need to start. And
Yes,
climate
definitely.
will come. Don't worry so much about climate change.
Should we
This
jump to
is-
the discussion?
Yes, exactly. This was what I was slowly going to, being quite conscious
Sorry.
about time. We do have 5 minutes to dedicate to our audience in case they want to chip in and ask further questions to either Begoña and Paula. So I'm gonna give the space to whoever wants to take the floor. Yes,
I have a question, but not a question. It's more a request. If you would be available to see if there are potential joint activities in our projects, because I guess that we have a similar perspective or angle to look into the way we try to engage the citizens and make it more realistic instead of addressing abstract entities such as humanity. That really, I think that really helps the discussion, and that really helps also informing others in our projects and outside our projects to really put something new on the table for them and put contents into the stakeholder engagement concept. So I would really just like to have contacts to reach out in separate emails and
Yes.
see if we can organize events or webinars together.
Of course, yes, happy to do so. Great, and nice
Thank
to
you,
meet you,
Rebecca.
It's nice to see how this cafe is also a platform to actually create this network that we're so much striving to have, right? So hopefully we're not going to be talking about it only in the cafe and it's going to lead to something else. But I also invite you to have a look at our last 2 weeks ago, the cafe we had on citizen engagement. We are talking about Stockholm, we're talking about Vienna. So it is something that is quite quite popular on our end in terms of having a discourse around citizen engagement.
Sorry, I
There's
was
no-
reading Roberto González.
Yes, me too.
Yes, it's a problem. It's a problem. Countries are not fitted to fight against global issue, no, but to make medium policies. That's the problem. If we define the problem as global, countries are not fitted to. But if we define in other ways the problem, perhaps countries can do things. If it's in ways of employment or food supply or agriculture issues, perhaps we can do things there. It depends on in the chain of sense of meaning that we talk about. And then we have things for Europe, global or international, transnational, national and local. But all depends on definition. If we are talking about something biological, yes, we cannot do a lot, no, as nations. But it's exactly what we are saying that we need to reframe.
Yeah, we did a booklet that was called "Let's Talk About Climate Change Without Talking About Climate Change." No, so it's let's talk about climate change through national policies on employment and how economies need to transition. And we're talking about new jobs and also the access to these jobs and how this access needs to be just and needs to include groups with lower levels of education or economic
And
positions. No?
educational changes. We need a change in education for this new world. This is a national policy. All the important policy for work and for jobs are national, actually.
And mobility, housing, industry, agriculture, no, are national policies. And through those policies, we can always talk indirectly, no, or have an agenda or a hidden agenda for climate change. So I think all of those things refer to the country, and also the pride and the belonging, no, to a place, to a nation, to a city, no, all that belonging and that sense of solidarity. That because if we feel all social change and all social change has come with a big sense of power, of collective power, and now we are in the individual blame. So this is going to take us nowhere, no? If we feel a sense of collective power, a sense of collective belonging, a need and an inspiration to take our country, our neighborhood, our city elsewhere, no, to a new society, we will do it together, you know. So I think that, Roberto, what do you think?
I see some hands clapping in the audience.
Thank you, Roberto.
Appreciated your answer. I think that it's a very nice note to actually end our cafe on, understanding how this collective belonging has to be built on an individual sphere. So we talked about the local scale, at a national scale, to be able to counteract that global discourse that actually is bringing us nowhere. So thank you very much for participating. Thank you, experts. Thank you, Begoña. Thank you, Paula. And we do invite the audience to get in touch with us if they want to discuss this further. Follow us on social media, and we will be sharing the recording of this cafe shortly. So you have also a way to share it across your networks too, and talk more about it.
Thank you so much, Eugenia, for organizing and facilitating this session. And I hope we see you all soon in other sessions.
Definitely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.